Okay, oh boy. So, Beta 2.0. There wasn't much difference when I was trying to rebuild previous builds of Lost Legend. I guess would be the way to say it, but this one has more reflections of Gamma. It has the intro that I made for Clayton, and I had informed people this game's not finished, blah blah blah, all that. Now this whole intro came about when I knew I had to work with characters I already needed to adapt to the storyline. I wanted something that would flow more naturally into the segue to where you would be introduced to Luther, compared to say, oh, he's just there and he's your main character and that's basically about it. This came about when I would say me and like two other people kept bickering back and forth as to what would be an acceptable intro, and this is basically what we came up with. Yeah, not that impressive, I know. Now Lauren was an interesting case because there was a case where I wanted her to be of loyalty and she fled to the town of Leia and made her own thing, but that never came to be. What I'm going to do also is that I'm going to play through this as I would regular episodes. Beta, it's not available, nor is 1.0. However, what I'm going to do is that once I reach certain points with Beta 2.0, I'm going to go and show what the mansion had gone through in terms of development. Everybody has already seen Alpha, so this is when everything started to have its own thing. As you can tell, the battle system wasn't exactly in place. We were doing everything more so with the default engine that we already had. Doesn't seem all that exciting. Monsters were changed once again for this playthrough, so it wasn't so daunting when players got involved. However, but as you can tell, it had more of the basic RTP and whatever else you would expect from Beta. That sound is from Final Fantasy 3. Obviously, I couldn't re-implement it as I made Gamma, so that was a major thing. As you can tell, there wasn't any portraits. It was just the basic face portraits, not just the whole bust and whatever as you come to expect from Gamma. I'm guessing I'm gonna split it between different episodes. I'll figure out how to split the episodes, I'm sure. The sprites and whatever you see now for the battlers, I eventually had obtained and had re-implemented as time went along. And yeah. As much as I like the faces, I can't use them without proper segues or permissions that one would need. Certainly showed more facial expression than what you would expect. Battles are too much, I'll be sure to edit them out, or skip ahead so the others, whatever else. Most of me. That was the autopad, they eventually eliminated that. His ears weren't really hidden behind that bandana. However you want to put it. Hey Samuel, what's going on? Mr. Grump Grump. And as you can tell, the whole town of Leia had completely changed. At least by the time that I got it into beta standard, I guess would be the way to put it. Put in the whole temple there because it being the town of Leia, might as well have something in relations to Leia. This way, as you read the dialogue behind Zalema, who of course is an important character later on, you can just see kind of the first town you'll be exploring and whatever else, and everything else in between. Statue is still left in. All that stuff, which is nice. Lauren having more of a character depth with Clayton was important. At least I think so. Here comes Luther. What he does is that he puts his cape over his head like a hood. And that's why it looks like the way that it does. And so, though people will mistake him as a thief, I think adding that dynamic where he kind of puts it over his head so he covers his head is a nice character arc to him. You can kind of tell that for 2.0, Clayton's home more or less still had the dynamic of Alpha. Yeah, nothing really too important here. It doesn't really look like a home per se, but you get the chance to, you know, check around, see what's going on. Nothing special really. What's this? Hidden items. Gotta love them. Hidden items everywhere. I don't know, I think that giving the players to discover who Clayton is was a good segue into his character and having him be more in-depth. Now what I'm going to do this time around is that I'm not going to interact with anybody who has taken notice of Luther, who had entered into the inn by now. Sometimes I see it move. Hang on, I'm gonna see something. So at a time, if you'd like to know. Okay. The Gosh Shrine always seems to have a strange aura to it. Sometimes I swear I can see her move. Get to know her, blah blah blah. I love the music. Zonderland, I believe, the DLC pack was for that music to be able to use into my projects. Oh my god. It's like I got transferred into the Labyrinth and never left. I love the Labyrinth, by the way. It's one of my favorite movies. I always wanted to make a reference to it, but I don't know if it'd be appropriate to or however. See, Flamelands, blah blah blah, yeah. So her dialogue still more or less stayed intact. You can kind of tell this area kind of started to develop all its own. It wasn't really all that impressive, at least during beta 1.0 and 2.0. Wait, that's right. When you were already getting set up for food and however else, you can tell that it was starting to become its own thing. But, of course, as you can tell by now, the currency you have now is coins, the gemstones, or however else that I put into place there. Dialogue here is pretty much the same for people who've played Gamma. Though this place I've redesigned. I wanted something smaller. In Gamma, this place actually is redesigned the way that it is, and it got transferred into the Bethern Kingdom, which is on the second land that you explore later on in the full game. So, nothing really important to note, just something here. If you return here as Luther, he'll go ahead and do whatever. That's an Easter egg, I guess. Let's see here. On the mansion, as you can tell, is still kind of just here. Yeah, not that impressive. Now, I put in Major Caves in case people wanted to revisit and get whatever's necessary and get the level ups and whatever else. But as you can tell, this is a whole world map that I was already transforming into what it became, you know, the necessary things in life. Redesign. And over here is where the fairy forest is. Alright, so let's go visit the old man and go from there. I'm not gonna go and sit through dialogue that we've already been through. His house, too, has changed and whatever else. Let's see. Is there something you would like to know? What can you tell me about the MRSA? He more or less had his own dialogue by now. He was given more of a dynamic, and eventually, besides calling him old man, I called him old adventurer, and there was this whole theory of, oh, what if it was Luther who had time travel? And I'm just like, that's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever discussed with anything, or with anyone. I didn't like the whole idea of Luther time traveling. So this, more or less, discusses the same dialogue that you already did know, or however. I'm gonna go ahead and skip through this and have Luther go and read through this, simply because I'm gonna have Luther read through that because there's a flashback scene. Blah blah blah. I'm glad that as I grabbed a hold of the tile sets that Lost Legend would transform into, that it didn't look like every other RPG Maker game, that it actually would transform into its own thing. It would have its own identity, stuff like that. Here's Luther. By now, he already has a different colored cloak, mainly because there were colors in Castlevania that I really liked with Alucard, and I just put him up with that, and people liked him like that, so... yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Land Cave doesn't seem as if though it's changed much. At least I don't think so, anyway. Going to the save point in here. 2.0 was the second run that I did, not 1.0. 1.0 was more or less a recopy of Alpha 1 and Alpha 1.0 and 2.0, which was interesting enough. Yeah, I found it very fascinating how things would turn out. Didn't look so generic, I guess would be the way to say it. Chests are not random. I didn't do the randomization of chests until Gamma. Yeah, when Gamma. I do love the look of RPG Maker's base, look for VXS, because not a lot of base assets look nice with one another, but I knew that if I wanted Lost Legend to have its own voice, I would want to assure that it just had its own thing going on, or however. Yeah. If used correctly, these could actually be modified very much to a liking that that you could use to make it look unique, but it would take a lot of effort. And, yeah. But around this time, I was trying to get artists and everything involved with the project, which never really happened, sadly. And of course, they're jumping on ahead saying, I'm gonna go ahead and take point. That line hasn't really changed. His laugh. I thought of the idea of making Samuel someone you would want to fight. But it never came to fruition. I was just like, I feel as if though Samuel, being who he is, I felt it more necessary to maybe put his battle off until Until you actually encounter my little makes him disappear and whatever else. So there's a whole segment that I had created that I mentioned before in Alpha, that which transformed into a whole segment between Leia and Luther, and I didn't think it was worth putting into, so this whole segment you're gonna see, I'm gonna probably re-implement later into the game. I haven't thought as to where yet, but I'm pretty sure and pretty confident that this will stay. Leia. Any news of the war, Luther? No, we are still seeking where Samuel gathered his troops. I suppose there's no point after all. Many have died for just many cannot speak. The many that have died just for our cause. Leia, perish the thought. We will win this war. Then there is something I must do, not at least for me, Luther. Then what is your will? You must stop Samuel before this war brings more turmoil. Yes, Leia, your will shall be done. Luther, Leia, Elgin, what are you doing here? There isn't time. The Merced Knights, they have turned on their own kind. They are saying that the gods have been more innocent than Leia herself. What they are doing is unreasonable. Surely Leia will talk sense into them. I suppose with all that the news of confident regarding, I am not here just to announce the disband of the Knights. Brother, my time has come. Today I must resign as well. Elgin, surely you can't be serious. You can change your... No, Luther. No longer will I stand to watch others suffer through our actions. This ends now. What are you talking about, Elgin? You know these times are hard. We have to stick together. No matter what happened to Luther, I can still save you. I shall open your eyes. What the goddess is doing is wrong. You know this. What are you planning on doing? You're out of your mind. Her death will not be out of suffering. You are blind. Samuel was right all along. Samuel put you onto this. Why are you siding with him than our old goddess who fights for peace? Like many others who continue to fight for the goddess, that was our fault. We're fighting for the wrong side, brother. What were you to continue to protect her under the illusions she placed you under? You're the one under the illusion. You would kill the woman who offered us shelter, knowing well we had nothing. Too bad, Luther. I was going to see if you were even worthy of Samuel. As for you... You traitor, stay away! Leia! Elgin, leave her out of this! You learn nothing. I am ashamed to even call you my brother. Your life ends here, Lioness. No mercy. Yeah, it was... I'll be sure to rewrite the dialogue when I go and actually put it into it, I guess. I don't know. Way to say it. Merced Knights. Her saying, I never blamed you, not once. And of course, to give the players more indication that you should probably grab the book. Leia's spirit is kind of there, like, hey, go grab it. The struggles of rebuilding this game so many times. Here's his bandana, which of course actually became more of a bandana. However, for time reasons, I'm going to go ahead and call the episode here. I guess I can give permission to have Luther go back down to the basement and whatever else. Let's see if I can talk with Lauren. Yeah, let me go ahead and... What's your name? We could do instructions later. That dialogue more or less stayed intact with... Of course, if you go and check out the place, look at these scribbles on the map. Luther will have his own dialogue to everything. Well, at least almost everything. Take a snooze. Alright, so that ends it for this episode. I will see you in the next one.